All right, folks. So for investors, this is a crucial moment to consider portfolio adjustments as a potential Trump presidency could have a significant impact on the stock market. Interestingly, there are signs that the so-called Trump trade has already been on the way. Of course, the Trump trade is open to interpretation, and we're going to explore that on today's show. But before we get to November, remember, this market was already celebrating a potential September cut at the heightened probability, in fact, that the Fed could cut. Some traders are saying as much as 50 basis points, 0.5% here. So that already, as we know, got the ball rolling. In fact, as Fed futures rocketed to that level, on big time volume. Also, here's the volume. So obviously, Wall Street is really champing at the bit on this 50 basis point cut, which could, of course, allay a lot of fears that the Fed it's too late, because I think they should have gone or should go in July. If they go 50 in September, maybe the slate's okay. Meanwhile, enthusiasm for the rate cut has instantly changed the game, right? The future of stocks now largely has been almost every stock has been watching this market from the sidelines, except for those in the NASDAQ, right? The mega cap names. But look what happened on Thursday. Mega cap came down, S&P came down, and small caps absolutely erupted. They soared. But the interesting thing about Thursday's session, and this really is really kind of amazing, folks, is that the S&P 500 finished down for the session, down almost 1%, 0.9%, although 289 stocks were actually higher. There were more advancers than decliners. Now, under normal conditions, the market would have been up 1.2%. Then there was Friday, because if you really want to say, well, what's great? What can we get? You want to talk about a real Goldilocks scenario? How about almost every single stock in the market finishing higher? That was Friday. It probably won't be this way every day going forward. Listen, there's no doubt, however, there's upside bias as it's gotten stronger, in fact. But if there's a dull moment, some may want to glance at valuations and determine that really, you know what? It's tough. Nothing is really cheap out there. Even equal weight, which is underperformed, is at 20 times. S&P, we know, is at 26 times. The Russell's at 38 times, but a lot of those names aren't even profitable, so you have to pick those individually. NASDAQ 44 times and the Magnificent 7. So we know that the stock market is extremely expensive here. The good news, though, is there's hardly ever a dull moment, so we may not pay attention to this. My first guest, I want to bring in one of the more astute, objective investment strategists out there. His unique macro research and really data-driven analysis has given him an amazing track record. By the way, he also follows and understands the implications of the betting market. So let's bring in our friend Jim Bianco. Jim, let's start with these betting markets. Now, President Trump soaring to 66%. This number is always moving around. President Biden, 24%, Vice President Harris at 12%. What do you make of this and the actions associated with now the Trump trade out there?
Yeah, as far as the betting markets, just to put it on, the reason everybody's looking at it is events are moving so fast that the polls can't catch up. They're still trying to figure out what happened in the debate, and now we've got the attempted assassination attempt that they've got to put into it. So we look at the betting markets and think of them like the point spread in a football game. It's just a consensus of what everybody thinks. So if Trump is trading at 68%, that's the consensus. But like the point spread in a football game, doesn't necessarily have to be right, but it's useful information to tell us that he's far away in the lead right now. I'd almost have to say that if he holds that kind of lead for the next couple of weeks, like a football game, basically he'd have to lose it as opposed to that Biden could win it as we move forward. So there is useful information in these markets, and they're telling you that, Trump is in the lead and is only further pulling ahead right now.
Now, one area folks are looking at is the yield curve, the steepening of the yield curve. The argument is tariffs. You keep the high end the long end is higher. The short end starting to come. And we can see here, right, as we've been talking about the steepening of the yield curve, at some point, it going positive. Is this a sign perhaps that, Wall Street is already making adjustments?
It could be. I mean, what's interesting is up until Saturday, if you'd asked me, is Wall Street making adjustments based on the election, I would have argued no. Because if you would have looked at, say, May 30th, the day of the conviction, or June 27th, the day of the debate, there was very little change in anything on Wall Street. Now we'll have to see whether or not it continues to go from here. But as far as the yield curve goes, Yeah, what it looks like it's happening is what we call a bear steepener. Interest rates would rise, but they will rise faster on the long end. The 10-year yield will go up faster than the 2-year yield. The reason the 2-year yield isn't going up as fast is because the Federal Reserve is making noise about cutting interest rates, maybe as early as September. And that is the type of trade that everybody's on. Now, I might add, that's been a very popular trade on Wall Street all year, and only now is it finally starting to seem to be working again.
Yeah, I guess at some point it has to, right? Maybe we've got a reason for it too. Hey, we got less than a minute to go. President Trump is becoming a real hero in the crypto community. You've covered this area like no one else. How much would it help, though, to have an advocate for crypto, for Bitcoin in the White House, as opposed to sort of the constant, threats that come from D.C.?
Oh, huge. Look at Bitcoin today. It's up over 5%. And the catalyst is that President Trump is still planning on speaking at the big Bitcoin conference in Nashville at the end of the month. And they're hoping that a Trump victory and an advocate, all they really want out of the crypto space is clarity and stable rules. Just give me the rules of the road and don't change them on me. And that seems to be, at a minimum, what they would get out of a Trump victory. And that's why I think crypto is celebrating, with Bitcoin being up 5%.
All right, Jim. Hey, thank you so much, my friend. Great starting the week off with you.
Thank you.
All right, so my next guest